Well, thank you. What a glorious introduction. I appreciate that. Hope I can live up to it. So when Kat came to my office, maybe August or something like that, and with the thought of maybe I might be able to give a talk at 3%. First, I was stunned and shocked that I would be worthy of it, but my mind started leaping. What would I talk about? Would I talk about the fact that I was one of the leaders at a 3% certified agency? That would be a good talk. Would I talk about having won a bunch of Lions this year? That would be a good talk. Would it be my path from ECD to CEO? That might be a good talk, but no, it wasn't that at all. In fact, it was cats, right? Cats. Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe. So in fact, when people say that they heard cats, it's usually a cliche. For me, it's actually a job description. I'm the CEO of Wunderman, Thompson, New York, and also I'm the creative director of Koneko, which is a cat cafe in New York City on the Lower East Side. You can all pause and think that's really weird. It's okay, I'm used to it. I'm really, really, really used to it. So who has been to a cat cafe? Whoa, seriously, that's amazing. So turn to the person next to you and explain what a cat cafe is, please. But most people, this is some kind of a weird market research project right here. Most people have never been to a cat cafe. So for those folks, what a cat cafe is a cafe filled with cats. And at least in our case, those cats have all been rescued from the kill shelters of New York City. Unfortunately, New York City is in fact a kill shelter, a kill city. So you can come and hang out and have a glass of sake and maybe eat some Japanese food, play with cats, or if you're in the market for a companion, you can actually adopt one of those cats. So for the next few minutes, I guess I'll try to share some of the things that I've learned about how to be a CEO covered with cat hair. True story. I'm sure, really. I used to carry one of those lint rollers around, but they don't fit in your pocket in any kind of a neat way. But so sort of one of the first and maybe most important things that I've learned, and it's been true for my whole career, is look really for the white space. If you're constantly looking for the white space, you're kind of guaranteed to be the first one in that new arena. So where Koneko came from, my partner Ben and I are big Japanophiles. We've been going back and forth to Japan for years and years and years. And cat cafes were actually born in Japan. In Tokyo, there are almost 100 of them, believe it or not. Tokyo's the sort of world center for all kinds of weird trends like this, as I'm sure you guys know. At that point in the history of the world, there were no cat cafes in the United States, none. And so we were wandering around in Shibuya. We had just come back from a cat cafe called Calico Cat Cafe, 15,000 square feet, 150 cats. And we were like, why doesn't this exist in the United States? Why are there no cat cafes in the United States? And so that thought just kind of like parked in our head for a little while. We'll pause there and I'll come back to it. The second thing is, if you really, truly, genuinely insist on joy in your life, as well as your work life, it will lead you down some strange and wonderful paths, right? And I would say that is an essential part of why I've been able to do the things that I've been able to do in my life is I've just not compromised on having joy both inside and outside of the office. So trust me on this, if you really do that, if you stay laser focused on doing the things that you love, with the people that you love, everything else sorts itself out. I promise you. And the reverse of that is also true. When you start compromising, when you start allowing things to interfere with the joy in your life, it's the beginning of the end. I look out at you all are going to be the future of this industry, right? Imagine yourselves 10 years ahead in the future. You're going to be running the show. Like, to be honest, people my age, we've kind of fucked it up. So if it's going to get better, it's going to get better because of you. And if joy is at the heart of that, it's going to be a better world and a better industry. So the next one is really be true to your vision. So, when we jump back to 2012, that trip to Japan, we came home, we said, let's do this Cat Cafe thing. This will be amazing, let's do this Cat Cafe thing. So Ben was a chef at Momofuku, and so he knew a little bit about opening restaurants and running them. And we knew that the health department was gonna be a bit of a critical step. So true story, I wish I had a recording of this, to be honest, but I'll never forget it. So the first call to the health department of the city of New York, first trying to find out who you talk to about this topic is really quite a challenge, but the first talk was some poor woman, and picked up the phone, and we kind of like made our little elevator pitch. And she literally put the phone down and we could hear her hysterical laughing and saying, "Hey Gladys, come over here." So it took a while. It took almost 2 years, actually, from that first phone call to the day that we opened. It was a lot of persistence, a lot of sneakiness, honestly. Ultimately, we ended up hiring as a consultant one of the inspectors from the Department of Health who helped us to write the plans for building Kaneko. And ultimately it worked. So at that point, there were no cat cafes. Today, there are about 200. There are 4 right here in Chicago, 4 cat cafes here in Chicago. So you guys that have been into a cat cafe, thank you so much. You've been a part of building what has become a really important movement. At Kaneko, we've found homes for, I think at this point, we're not as good at data as we probably should be, but we've found homes for about 3,000 cats who would have otherwise been euthanized. So, and that's, thank you. That's just, it has to do with just being really, 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 really persistent. So I started out in this business as a copywriter. I was a journalist before that. And my design partner was a woman named Susan Easton. And she sat next to me at the table, and she's still my best friend. She's my spirit animal. She designed the logo and identity system for Kaneko, which is ironically won a ton of awards. And you guys, I think, know this to be true, probably, I hope anyway, that your success is not just about you, it's about the people that you surround yourselves with. And if you're really, really, really lucky, you'll find that missing piece. And you'll stay with them forever. You'll hold them tight and cherish them. And that's a big part of what I think you should be looking for, is not just the work and not just the compensation, but the family that you surround yourselves with. It's critical. So I was in an earlier session about empathy, and I found I found empathy to somewhat maybe my superpower, the ability to really listen and hear, and those are sometimes different things, and to really walk in the shoes of the other is critical. Who has a cat? Oh, wow, awesome. Cats? Multiple cats. How many cats?
5.
That's a problem. Anything over 3 is worth a real conversation. I'm going to seek you. I know what your home looks like. I know it. Well, we'll talk later. So I think that the idea of getting out of your bubble is, it's never been more important, I think, than right now. And really listening and really, really, really relating to people, and particularly to the other. It's easy to be around our friends and the people who think like us. It's very challenging. And ultimately, I think actually more rewarding, and it's where breakthroughs come from, when you really start paying attention to the other. It's It's weird to me that, like I have never been particularly good at finding balance in my life. And I actually, I don't know, far be it from me to counsel you guys about, work-life balance. I have found it to be a failure in my life. I think always the boundary between work and play for me was always fairly porous. I would say that it's completely evaporated at this point, and that it really, in fact, is finding a place and finding a structure and people that will support you for having a full life, at work, out of work. And it's, this is challenging, and you guys are, a lot of you are at the beginning of your career. I would encourage you, don't compromise on that. Insist on it, in fact, right? If you're not in a place that supports what you want to be as a person outside of work fully, you should be in another place. Don't compromise on that. So the next thing is really try to be positive. Since 2016, I found it more and more challenging to do this. But in fact, I think now is the most important time for us to enter into conversations at work and outside of work, assuming positive intent. If you have cats, you know that if you're approaching a skittish cat, they know if you're afraid. They know if you're presuming that they're going to bite you, right? And it's highly likely you will get bitten, right? If you, on the other hand, look at the world from their perspective, right? If you assume that things are going to go well, it'll probably go well. Because they're cats, I can't promise. Well, I can't promise that it will go well, but you have a decent shot. And it's all about, I think, projecting that kind of positivity and energy. Yes. Personal rule. I think that we're at a moment in time where it's not okay anymore to be a jerk. And I think, unfortunately, in the creative industry, too many times we give people a pass. People in leadership give assholes a pass because they're like, oh, yeah, he shouldn't have said that, but he's so good, so creative. Or the client likes him so much, or the account people like him so much. No assholes. Use your voice. If you have a bad interaction with someone, make sure that they know about it and make sure someone else knows about it. This is a time for massive change. It needs to be a time for massive change. And I think you all are going to drive it. People my age have grown up making compromises and allowing this kind of nonsense to exist. You haven't. You know what's right because you're still in that moment. I think you can insist on it. And I think one of the consequences of that is, if you chase being popular, you might end up there, right? But it's a really short-term gain. I think what you're trying to do in the end is do work that's really interesting, do work that's really provocative. By definition, that's going to be polarizing. That's okay. In fact, I think that's great. If you're not doing work at some level that's pushing the edge of possibility, that's creating that kind of polarization, it's probably not very good, especially now, right? This is a moment where I think that's an expectation, right? And again, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen because of you all. You don't have the burden of history and the legacy of the agencies that you work for riding on your back. You're free. So this last one, inclusivity that changes everything. I believe that this has been a journey for me. Kaneko is for sure, it's a magnet for cat people, it's a magnet for animal rescue people, and that was on the stated agenda from the beginning. It's become a lot more than that. We have a knitting group that meets there to crochet pussy hats. As a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. We have women that meet there to teach origami. We have guided meditation classes. We have a cosplay group, a Sailor Moon cosplay group, drag karaoke. It started out as one thing, and it's become something much, much more. It was a refuge for cats, and it's become a bit of a refuge for people, all kinds of people. And I think that work can be that way too. About 2 years ago, we started work with Tommy Hilfiger. Tommy started a line of clothing for people with disabilities. So buttons that were magnets and hems that were Velcro. So we helped them to develop that clothing line and then also to launch it out into the world. And there's a mantra in the disability community that goes, nothing about us without us. It has to do with, don't talk to me, don't talk about me, involve me in that process. And so the work that we've done with Tommy Adaptive, we've involved people with disabilities in absolutely every single aspect of the work. In front of the camera, obviously, but behind the camera too. And I think everyone that has worked on that project has been touched by it, and it has transformed the way that we do all our work, including the other as a core part of the process. You know, it's always struck me as astounding and deeply unethical that this business is run by people who aren't the audience, by and large. And the Tommy work was, for me, an object lesson in the way that we have to behave at work and outside of work. It's made me a better leader. It's made me a better creative person. And it's made me a better person. And I would encourage you to ponder that. You know, how do you really, truly militate for change so that the work you do is produced by and reflects the audience? Insist on it. This is the beginning of what I believe to be a massive wave of change of the industry and of culture. And I think your voice is as valid and as powerful as mine as a CEO. Nothing makes me happier than when someone on the team, particularly junior folks on the team, comes to me and says, hey, we should not be doing it this way, we should be doing it this other way. And again, if your leadership doesn't have big ears for that kind of conversation, you need new leadership. So now in my my final act of catitude, we are in fact hiring. And so please take a little quick snap of that. My email's at the bottom. Our head of talent is right there. Please, 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 if you want to work in a place where the people really truly embrace the kinds of things that I've been talking about, come and talk to us. Thank you.